BLUELOCK's France match is debatably the hardest game in the entire series to this date. With Julian Loki, the best U20 player we've seen so far, an additional new-gen midfielder who's already proved himself in one chapter, and the youngest prodigy in France, BLUELOCK are going to have a difficult time with this match. It becomes even worse when France are the favorites to win in both the manga and in the fan base, and 90% of us already know we're cooked, but we know our boys won't sit idly, especially Isagi Yoichi. As the #1 of BLUELOCK and the title of a Demon King and adaptability genius, this is yet another obstacle in his path to become the #1. So how will Isagi overcome this almost impossible obstacle? Which is why I'll be going over what I think will happen to Isagi and how this France game will be the key to his newest awakening on his path to become the best player in the world. But first, we need to understand the role of each character in France. Loki is treated as the biggest and main problem for Japan for a good reason. His Godspeed is absolutely insane, and that weapon alone has brought him to the top of the U20 category. Charles we saw a lot during a PXG, and he's sort of an underrated character as seen by his most recent goal, almost unpredictable at that. And of course we have Hiryo, the newly introduced new Gen 11, and who I think will be the biggest problem for Isagi this match, even over Loki. Ever since he was first introduced, it was hyping up their inevitable face-off and rivalry by Hiryo calling him unsuitable. So right away, we kind of knew Hiryo would be some sort of intelligent player or very similar to Isagi's playstyle, which is why he can call it unsuitable. Either that or bro is just a D1 hater. In the first chapter though, we see him prove his intelligence. Now, the official chapter isn't out at the time of this recording, only the leaks are, so I can't use the panels, but we saw pretty much 3 things from Hiryo: him directing the team, him beating Isagi and Rin in a 1v2, and getting a perfect pass off to Charles, leading to a goal in the first minutes of the game. Which is absolutely insane to me. Like, they only scored 2 goals against England, but scored in the first minutes against us. With no sweat. It might just be raps. So you see why that's the common belief for this game. France has a very good chance of winning it. Japan is going to lose and get quote-unquote humbled, and having to use it as a learning experience. It's also been a while since BLUELOCK or Isagi has lost a game, and narratively it just makes sense for them to lose this game so that the stakes are higher for the last England game, and when they eventually rematch France, they can fix their mistakes from this group stage game. Not to mention, if they're going to lose a match, it probably makes sense to lose to the #1 ranked team, Loki, Charles, and Hiryo being there as well. But if that's the case and Japan does lose against France, I think this loss will hit the most for Isagi Yoichi, which is who we're here for, right? Even before the game, he was literally talking about it. He explained in the bathroom how he became the nucleus of BLUELOCK, and if his condition slips or he messes up and loses, all of BLUELOCK would collapse alongside him. Basically, Isagi saying he the most important person in the room, but it's damn near true, so I don't even blame him. So to break it down for y'all, Isagi has all of this pressure on him, and if he loses, then that pressure and guilt is gonna come all over him, and he'll be blaming himself for BLUELOCK's loss. However, we know our boy Isagi. Whenever he loses, he'll get back up, he'll adapt, he'll learn, because that's what our boy does. It's how he's gotten so far in BLUELOCK in the first place. The only reason why this time is different though is because Isagi has to overcome multiple obstacles rather than just one. And this is the main problem that he'll be facing throughout this game. Usually in the games, there is just one obstacle holding Isagi back. For example, in Munchen, it was his body, which he fixed in Ubers by training his lefty shot. During the Ubers match, he couldn't visualize winning against Barou and Kaiser, so he needed Hiyori as a game changer to help, after which he scored. During PXG, the game infamous for a bunch of different problems, it was still only one obstacle at a time. Whether it was Rin encountering him with the Kaiser team up, Noel Noah basically using him and him returning back to 0 to say I don't need you anymore, or Ness and reading his awakening in the fastest. And finally for Nigeria, yeah, there was no obstacles there. The only thing there was Kuso's glazing, but the whole point is that when Isagi faces a problem or has an obstacle in his way, it's usually one at a time. And our boy, time and time again, has proven that he'll adapt. There's one problem, Isagi finds one solution. But this time around, it's gonna be multiple problems affecting him at once. We already talked about the pressures of failing Blue Lock because he's the nucleus, and that's one problem. But there is also the pressure of being the #1 player, which is the second obstacle that he'll have to face. Holding the title of the strongest, you have to live up to those expectations. This is the first time that Isagi has really set a bar so high for himself, and there are a ton of Isagi fans canonically. I mean, they were holding a damn flag for bro in the opening chapter. And I would say even us as readers have set a high bar for Isagi. I see so many people defending him, fully trusting in our boy that he's gonna humble France and Loki, going against the popular belief of his downfall. I don't need to explain the Isagi Glazers for y'all to know about it. So you see how everyone has set this bar so high for Isagi. The expectations are high both canonically in the story since he's the #1 and for us as readers. Now he has to live up to those expectations, which is added pressure and what he talked about before this match too. It's another obstacle that he has to overcome. If he ends up succeeding and winning, then everything's good. We get the happy ending, Isagi's the GOAT and whatnot. But if he fails, there is so much for him to lose. Uneasy is the head that wears the crown. In the story, there will be people's doubts. Maybe his own confidence goes down. The stress of trying to live up to everyone's expectations and satisfy them. And in real life and social media for us readers, I just know Isagi is going to undergo so much slander. All the Isagi haters have a file of mid-Sagi slander ready to go, as well as the Isagi fans will be wondering why he failed. So you see how the weight of being #1 and just Isagi Yoichi in general is massive. If he loses or doesn't meet his expectations, he will have to deal with the repercussions of it. But now that we know all the stakes, how does this connect with the France game? Well, I think Blue Lock and Isagi will lose this game to France, so he's gonna have to pretty much undergo all those obstacles that I just talked about. Of course, another additional obstacle is Julian Loki, who I don't even need to explain why he's a problem for this game. We're not gonna focus on him too much this video because I think there's an even bigger reason why they lost. And more specifically, I think they'll lose because Isagi quote-unquote loses to Hiryo, which I think is going to be one of the best matchups in this game, and also the third and final obstacle for Isagi. But this video is about Isagi's awakening and not his downfall, and I think this matchup against Hiryo will be the key to his newest awakening or awakenings, because I think Isagi will have two of them. First things first, we have barely seen Hiryo, like he's just a big question mark at the moment. One chapter leak at the time of this video, so I could be completely wrong about my analysis on him. But from what we've seen so far, we know he's a smart player. Bro was hitting the books in his first appearance, and he blitzed Isagi and Rin to get it past to Charles. I think this feat alone kind of hints towards what he's good at, or potentially even his weapon. And that's moving so quickly that he doesn't give you time to think, and then using that opportunity to use his brain. To break it down in simpler terms, Hiryo is a player that uses his game IQ reactively. And we see that kind of with this play. He dribbles past Isagi, and then Rin comes in, knows in his mind he needs to use his hands to stop him, and then gets a pass off before they can catch back up to him. Everything about that play, from reacting to Rin and blocking him to making a split-second decision to get an assisting pass to Charles, just shows his game IQ is high in reflex. This is the complete opposite of Isagi's thinking, who has a more proactive way of thinking, where he tries to look around for the best option or what might happen and then shape that outcome. The literal definition of proactive thinking. It's also because of Isagi's high game IQ too, where he can predict things very accurately, as seen with the Nigeria game where he found a way to win in the first minutes. So Isagi is a way more suited towards this way of thinking, because metavision is his weapon. That's literally metavision. I don't blame Isagi for thinking this way, especially because it's worked out for him so well so far. But against someone who can think reactively like Hiryo and still calculate the best options every single time, you're gonna lose because they act faster than you. This is why Isagi lost against Hiryo, because Hiryo simply acted faster, his thinking was faster. Even if you scale their game IQ to be similar, Hiryo was the one to take action first. It also just lines up with how he dictated the game and why France plays so quickly, because he also plays quickly. His thinking is quick, it's reactive. It's quick, there isn't much to explain. Hugo is pretty much a parallel of Isagi who favors a reactive style over a proactive style, which explains why he calls Isagi unsuitable, because he thinks his way of thinking is better than Isagi's. Now, that's not to say that both of them can't do one or the other. Like, it's not saying that Isagi can't think reactively, because we've seen him do it. It's his reflex thinking. But since Isagi calculates more than reacting, that is why Hugo calls him unsuitable. So that's kind of my key takeaway prediction on Hugo's character. Now, you might be wondering, how the hell does this relate to Isagi's awakening? The more I talk, it just sounds like Isagi is gonna keep having his downfall, but trust me and trust in our boy. Even if his awakening doesn't happen in this game and they still lose, I think Isagi will get the major takeaway from playing against Hugo, that he needs to start thinking reactively. Isagi can't just analyze the field anymore. Yes, Metavision is good, and it's gotten us plenty of wins. I'm not saying throw it out of the window, it's still really good, but Isagi needs to make those plays himself, and that's what he'll realize. And the reason why I thought of all of this is because it links to Isagi's 45-day training of game-changing moments. Hugo and his way of thinking is the literal example of the game-changing moments that Isagi studies. As we saw by that one play, it's what Ego was teaching Isagi, and that's going to be his newest awakening. By not just calculating the game, but also forcing the game to go in his favor by his actions, his game-changing moments, Isagi is going to be a better player, one step closer towards that #1 spot. Because even if you think of the best option or a way to win, like Isagi does with Metavision, it's useless unless you're able to act upon it. Now, that's just one part of his awakening, because it affects the second part of it. When Isagi is forcing the game to go his way, he's inherently going to be more selfish. That's why I said he's going to have 2 awakenings earlier. Turning more selfish mentally is one, and having his playstyle be more selfish through forcing options is the other. We already talked about him forcing options through his game-changing moments, but turning more selfish mentally, Isagi is going to start caring less and less about people's expectations of him. Because, of course, like we talked about earlier, those expectations were putting so much pressure on Isagi, like being the #1 and whatnot. Instead, he's simply going to care more about his own goal of becoming the best striker in the world. Being more selfish, forcing goals himself, even when there isn't any opportunity, by his game-changing moments. And all of that connects to what Kaneshiro said about Isagi's character. Will you still love Isagi till the end? Because now, he doesn't care about the people's expectations of him, he only cares about himself, which is the true egoist mentality. Maybe some of Isagi's selfish plays even affect the other blue lockers too, giving that statement an even deeper meaning and turning this situation into a moral dilemma. Like, do you support Isagi's selfish actions if it's to become the best in the world, even if it means the cost of others that we've grown to love so far? Like I said before though, I don't think this awakening will happen during the game. I still think France will win against BLUELOCK, but this game will be the catalyst for Isagi's next awakening, perhaps in the England game or later on in the World Cup. This is because after the match, I still think Isagi has to undergo the pressures of being #1, not living up to people's expectations, and the scrutiny that comes with failing. That's just going to be another character arc for him. It'll come from both the story, because Isagi is pretty much the face of BLUELOCK, and because BLUELOCK lost against France, Isagi's going to take most of the blame, and also in real life because there was going to be Isagi slander everywhere saying he fell off. But what we'll also see is Isagi's growth throughout it. How does he deal with those mental struggles and pressures of being at the top now that he's reached it? I'm sure that any player at the top has actually gone through this before too. And even though they lost the France game, Isagi still got a big hint towards his next awakening from Hugo, and just playing in the game in general, so it's not a complete loss for him. So that's how I think Isagi's story is going to go for this next match. That's the best theory that I can come up with, considering that BLUELOCK is probably going to lose against France. It gives us the Isagi struggle arc, Isagi redemption arc, as well as his newest awakening, when he comes back stronger like he always does. But anyways, that about wraps it up for this video. Like I said earlier, this is a very early theory. We had one chapter come out for this game, so by the next chapter, this theory might not even be valid. So take it all with a grain of salt. I am curious as to what y'all think though. I've seen so many people talk about Isagi's downfall, including myself, so I wanted to give a theory focusing on his awakening. If you made it to the end though, thank you so much for watching as always. YouTube really thinks you like this video right here, so be sure to check that one out too. I love y'all so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one.